Meet Rob Nelson, talk show host.
Because you got the 70s thing going there. I got someone's underwear.
Robert Kennedy, thanks for taking a minute. Simple question.
Tucker?
It's good to see you. Listen,
You're a Bitcoin maximalist. You're Bitcoin forever.
I hate this central bank digital currency.
Hey, I don't have all the answers, but together, I know we can find them.
Down in competition in the ratings tab for late night weekend viewers.
Hey everybody, happy Monday. Welcome to Rob Nelson Live. We're going to have a bit of a shorter show today. Christmas coming up, but I'll do a Wednesday show for those of you who watch or care. Oh, wow. Where do we start? Well, we're going to mix a little bit of everything up here. We're going to start, we're going to do a little about Trump, a little about Epstein, a little about the state of mind of all of us. Let's start with Epstein. Wow. The impact Jeffrey Epstein left is stunning. It's remarkable, the reach, the breadth of what he did. First, on a pure level of what he did as a person, becoming worth an enormous amount of wealth, and then surrounding himself with the most influential, powerful people in the world for decades. And I forget the partisanship. Yes, it was mostly Democrats, okay? Which, again, if you're old enough, like I am, to go back and realize Bill Clinton, the Democrats in the 90s, were Donald Trump and the Republicans in the 2020s. It's not that different. Different party, different affiliation, same mojo. Epstein surrounded himself with the most powerful people in the world consistently. He entertained them. He hung out with them. He flew them on his jet. He took them to his island. And then some portion of them did really horrific things. And he did those horrific things. Trafficking young women. That part, you can't, there's no part that you can escape of what he actually did. Now, there's a survivor who was, because of this latest release of files and held up the picture. And it's stunning to watch these women in their late 50s, 60s, early mid 60s, holding up these pictures of themselves as these young women, and said, basically, had the Department of Justice, had the FBI listened to me when I first made my complaint 30 years ago, so much of this wouldn't have happened. Stop and take a second for that. She logged her complaints 30 years ago to the FBI, said what was happening. They ignored it. Now, if you want to get your partisan hat on, pull your hat on, think who was in charge of the White House 30 years ago, Democrats, but that's not the point. Or is it? Did they ignore it because Bill Clinton was friends with him? I don't know. Or somebody else high up in power? I don't know. They ignored it. And she said, had you not ignored my complaint, had you not ignored what I said was happening and had happened to me, decades of abuse would have been stopped. It was at least 10, 15 years later that they actually went after him the first time. And remember, they got him the first time, gave him a slap on the wrist. I think at that point it was a Republican administration in power. Gave him a slap on the wrist, and off he went to continue to do what he did. So both parties are involved in this. And the larger lesson here that I want to get to is we think in terms of parties, of partisan politics. It's a big mistake. We should think in terms of power and power politics. Left, right, Democrats, Republicans, not the issue. Power, politics, class, wealth, the haves and the have-nots. This is something that soon-to-be Mayor Mandami in New York City understands, and understands very well. And I will say right now, although I am not a fan of most of his proposed socialist policies, I am a fan of him. He represents a radical departure, not from the left or the right, not from the progressives and the moderates in the Democratic Party, or the ultra-right and the moderates in the Republican Party. He represents a break from the haves and the have-nots. And you can say, well, he's a have. Sure, it's irrelevant. You can be a have and represent the have-nots if you do it right. Donald Trump is a version of the have who represents the have-nots. I don't think he's doing the best job representing the have-nots right now, but overall, I've said, he appeals to the working class because it doesn't matter that he's a billionaire. He understands what they need and want and can relate to that and help them get it. Mandami may have come from privilege. Doesn't mean he can't help those without privilege. He does not fit the mold, which is why he could stand next to Donald Trump and the two of them could connect. They're very different, coming from very opposite places. I mean, they both came from positions of affluence of different degrees. But their politics couldn't be more different. Their connection on not even so much on making a difference for those who don't have, as much as on breaking the system of the haves and the have-nots. That's the distinction we miss. It's not just about I'm here to help the have-nots. That's every Democrat's line. It's so tired and old. Gavin Newsom's here to help the have-nots. No, he's not. He's a have who's helping the haves and a little crumbs for the have-nots. It's not about even just a commitment to help the have-nots. It's a commitment to take down the system that says the haves and the have-nots. This goes back to the core of America's democracy, the core of what the Patriots did in 1770s. They were tearing down a system, inadvertently, as I've said. Initially, they just wanted Britain to stop treating them like second-class citizens. But once that line was too far crossed, they're like, fuck it. Forget about being second-class citizens. We're done with you. We're going to create our own kind of citizens. And, democracy, again, democracy wasn't something they set out to do. What they set out to do was take the foot off their neck that Britain was putting on them. And they were like, we are British citizens. We are subject to the British Empire. Why are you doing this to us? It's not okay. Stop. When Britain didn't stop, they pushed harder. When Britain continued not to stop, they're like, that's it. F you. We are going for our own independence. Democracy emerged from that. It wasn't the plan. The plan was to give wealthy men with land power that they felt they had earned and were entitled to. Wasn't to empower women, wasn't to empower poor people. John Adams was horrified at the thought of average working people voting. It's like, that'll be a train wreck. They didn't want to give women power. They didn't want to give the average working person power. They certainly didn't want to give slaves power. Black people, brown people. Forget about the Indians, the indigenous people. But what emerged from that was democracy. They ultimately went after the system that deprived them of their rights, of their property, of their voice. Mandami, Trump are doing a similar thing. And the sooner you all realize it, the sooner you'll understand what's going to happen. There's a reason Mandami and Trump aligned so kind of oddly but naturally inside that White House visit a few weeks ago. Because they're doing a similar thing from different perspectives, with different politics, and even different policy agendas. But neither one is actually more trying to simply lift the working poor as much as trying to take down a system. Trump was a bull in a china shop to a system. By the way, a system which he was more on the Democratic side of for decades. I grew up, I watched it. There's a reason he was in the Epstein circle. He was one of the Democrats. Then he became a Republican. Now he calls himself a Republican, but I would argue deep down, he's just a break the system person. And he has shattered it. Mandami is a progressive left socialist. Yes. But fundamentally, he's a break down the system, the haves and the have-nots. It's always been a battle. And they pitted black against white, Latinos against blacks, middle class against working class. It's all been a pit of everybody being pitted against one another to keep a system in place. There's a reason why Nancy Pelosi has more in common with every single powerful member of the Republican Party than she does with anybody or any average American. They've always fought to defend a system, a structure. And as long as that structure works, you can pass power back and forth. Just keep the structure in place. Keep it among us. Keep it among our class, the ruling class. They used to call it the ruling class. Well, we have a ruling class in America, and it is called the Democratic Republican political establishment. It's almost all the members of Congress, not all. There have been now, the system's gotten injected with those. Many who are leaving, though. The Marjorie Taylor Greens, Congresswoman Stefanik, I would argue it at some level, former Senator Kristen Sinema and Joe Manchin, who didn't fit easily into that and didn't want to. A lot of those people have been injected in and are ejecting themselves out. They're pulling the thing. I'm out. But it's a system. It's always been a system. That system is the haves and the have-nots. And when it comes to government, the haves don't have to be D's or R's. They're together. They're all one big have. We look out for us. And we fight about which of us controls things, but we look out for us. Everybody else is over here, the them. Now we offer to help the them. We over here, the us, offer to help the them. We throw them the breadcrumbs. We pretend to care about them, but we really care about us. Donald Trump shattered that mold. And the reverberations of that have been massive. They've shocked the entire political system of the United States. They've shocked the entire world order that the United States built with the us and the them. They've shattered every single conventional political framework. Trump shattered it all. Within his own party, within the Democratic Party, within the American political system, within the NATO alliance, America-Europe system, within the entire world economy, shattered the entire effing thing. That's why I like Trump. He's a total narcissist. We'll get to that in a minute. He's an egomaniac. It's not the point. He is a myth buster. He's a shatterer. He busted the myth of we, the government, for the people, of the people, by the people, for the people. No, sorry, that's what it was supposed to be. It's not of the people, by the people, for the people. It's us over here when we want to, for you. It's not how it was set up. But again, remember, before it was set up, it's kind of what they were doing. The founders, the original patriots, weren't about of the people, by the people, for the people. They were about of us, for us. Britain stepping on us. We want our power back. We want our voices, our property, our control back. Forget about the women. Forget about the working people. Forget about the blacks, the browns, the Indians. Us. Democracy was not the intention of the founding fathers. It was the result of what they did. And that's very, very powerful. And it's not a diss on them. It wasn't the intention. And I don't care if you're left, right, whatever. Go watch Ken Burns' documentary. I've said it before. It's 12 long hours. Oh, my God. God bless him. It's like if you watch an interview with Ken Burns, watching his documentary is like watching an interview. It's like, as my sister says, it's for some people, it's sort of, some people love it, some people can't stand it. It's just the whole 12 hours is monotone. Like everything, every letter they read, and it's beautiful, by the way. They bring these letters out, what people wrote, things people said, and they read them all in the same monotone. The day I saw the troops marching on the thing, when I saw my husband leave on the day he left on the thing, it's all the same monotone delivery. Benedict Arnold, long seen as the biggest, most outstanding warrior, soldier, finally left. And on the day he left, the troops marched in 2 columns, one to do. It's all the same. The only thing that breathes life into it is the historians. I'm like, can I have more of the historians, please? Please, I want to go to class with the historians. I'm making fun of Ken Burns, but I will also acknowledge it's genius, the insights, genius, the way he unwraps, unfolds, and then refolds what the American Revolution really was. And he does it as a patriot. So this is not, again, a left or a right. He's not anti-America. Ken Burns is certainly not anti-America. But he's simply casting light on what really happened. And the result of what happened is the most remarkable political creation in world history. The first true version of a democracy in the Greeks had a democracy, but a democracy that opened the pathway to actually evolve into a people's government. Sure, we're technically a republic, a democratic republic, if you will. But as I said, when I say the founding fathers didn't intend to create a democracy, I'm not taking away from the fact that as it evolved, they knew what they were creating. They saw what they were creating as it happened. I just said they didn't set out to do that. They didn't set out to build that. They set out to get Britain's foot off their neck. We are subjects of the empire. You are treating us otherwise. We won't stand for it anymore. And one thing after another led to it. Culminated in the famous Tea Party thing, but it started before that. It started before that with Britain's various acts to control. And Britain putting a standing army in the Americas, like they were British subjects. You put an army in here with us? You wait. We're subjects of the empire. Why do we have a standing army here? To what? To stomp on us if we get out of line? Wait, we're subjects of the empire. Why do you have a standing army here? It's a subtle point, and people often miss it. Britain put a standing army in America. Standing army, meaning an army standing, ready to put down anything the colonists did. And the colonists were like, why is there a standing army here? Now, the colonists also were like, well, just so you know, before you put your standing army here, we built militias. We built militias to protect ourselves against the indigenous people, the Indians, against trouble. We know how to do this. The Patriots organized their militias in the middle of the night when the British troops were there. They were organizing in the middle of the night. They were doing midnight rallies. People going out in the cold in the midnight rallies. We're ready. We're building. That's why I've said the Second Amendment. To go back to the Second Amendment thing. I know I'm deviating to the deviation to the deviation. You know, the side piece to the side piece to the side piece. But sometimes triple side pieces make sense, personal or professional. Was because they wanted. They knew intuitively what they needed to do to protect themselves. They're like, we've done this before. We've protected against threats, and we will protect against current threats. And as we build a constitution and a republic and a government, we will give our future generations the ability to protect against threats, which is why I say the Second Amendment is the Second Amendment as written. Talk yourself up all you want, left or right, either side. Go ahead. I'll start with the right. The Second Amendment offered us the right to have guns, and every American should be able to have a gun, and there should be no restrictions on the kind of gun, and gun restrictions are inherently un-American. And no, they're not. Let's go to the left. The founding fathers did not intend for Americans to all have guns. Yes, they did. They literally wanted all Americans to have guns, to form militias. That's the part that everyone leaves out. I've said it before. To form militias so that you could protect against what? The very thing they'd form militias to do. First, to protect against the Native Americans. Second, to protect against the British government or any occupying government or any existing government, occupying or actually your own, to have the ability to defend yourself and your rights. People should have guns and be able to form militias. That's what they intended. That's what the Second Amendment said. That's what the Second Amendment meant. It's pretty simple, actually. It's not complex. It's not super creative. That's what they wanted. Okay, well, now we're going to side piece, back to the main piece. So the Patriots fundamentally, inadvertently created a democracy. And once they saw what they were creating, they leaned in heavy. Now, they did not actually probably fully intend all the consequences, good and bad. But I think they foresaw them. I'm not in their heads. But I think they were smart enough to see, well, right now we're fundamentally started out concerned with a small group of landholders, extended that to like, okay, all white males, whether you're a landholder or a worker, a soldier, a fighter, a person of industry, or a tycoon or a landowner. George Washington gave up two things. He resigned his military titles after the war. It may seem simple, but think about it. Who did that? Most world leaders at the time, actually, other than if you were like the King of England, your titles, Napoleon, your title as your military stature and power is what led you to political power, and you held on to it. You didn't voluntarily give it up. You held on to it. It's how you controlled the country and the world. Washington resigned his military titles, and they were shocked. They're like, wait, what? What general goes, hey, I'm a general who just conquered the most powerful empire in the world. I don't want to keep these titles and conquer more. Take them back. I resign. Then they said, okay, great. But can we make you president? Okay, sure. He could have been president for life. He could have been king. He's like, I'm not a king. I'm a president. And he then, after 2 terms, resigned that too and said, here, I don't keep this. No one should keep this. That's genius. Did he know what that meant? Well, he wasn't stupid. He had to have a sense of understanding what that means is I'm setting a precedent. I'm resigning military power and political power because no one person should inherently hold it from offering it forward to a system that will let the military stand alongside a civilian leadership. And I'm surrendering that civilian leadership so that future generations can have their own civilian leaderships. I'm not holding it and passing it on. That was huge. Right there. In Washington alone, we see that. Adams, Jefferson, Madison, all of them, even Benjamin Franklin, John Jay, they all saw it. They all saw what they were creating. When I say they didn't mean to create a democracy, they absolutely understood at some point that is what they were creating. And once they saw that, they leaned in heavy. As I said, they leaned in hard to lay the frameworks, the groundworks for that democracy, which would then lead to the potential for other generations to build on that and expand that democracy and make it more inclusive, to involve more, to empower, ultimately to empower working men to actually have the same power as landed men, to then empower women. You know, it's a great photo of the women outside the White House in like 1920, the suffrage movement. Like, when do you actually acknowledge us? And ironies in that side piece story that Abigail Adams was John Adams co-president, and she saw all of this and wrote about all this, and he saw it too, but yet he still was like, don't let the average person or the women vote. It's kind of ironic, given that he was like, yeah, except my wife Abigail, she can do everything, she's in charge, she's the Susie Wiles of the John Adams administration. But they had to know that they were pushing that in place and allowing for it, and future generations built on it. Working men, then women, then blacks, other minorities. It expanded, expanded, expanded. It's kept expanding. They laid a foundation, a framework that could be infinitely expanded. Thomas Jefferson said every generation should revisit the Constitution, because every generation will have new ideas. Now, we've never done that. We've had amendments here, there, some pretty radical ones, the 14th Amendment perhaps being the biggest, overturning the Dred Scott decision. We don't have time to go into that, but most of you know, it's what, essentially gave black people a voice and votes against a horrible Dred Scott decision. But that still took time for that segregation to end. There have been some major post-10 Amendment amendments, but we've never really gone back and revisited the Constitution, which Jefferson said every generation should do. And I've said, I think we should have, not that I'm comparing myself to him, but piggybacking on that, that every generation should actually have a constitutional convention. Then we could settle the Second Amendment debate and go, do we want what they actually said? Which, again, that is what they said. So stop pretending maybe they said this, maybe they said that. They said exactly what I said they said, and they meant exactly what they said. You want that or not anymore? If not, let's change the Second Amendment. So stop pretending to try to interpret it as A, B, C, D, or E. It's A. It's what they said. It's pretty straightforward. This is the First Amendment and the Third Amendment, as are most of the amendments. There's room for some interpretation, but even get down to the Fourth Amendment, like, God, the things we've done to interpret the Fourth Amendment, to add in and define and redefine, from creating the Miranda rights to creating what are the limits of search and seizure, all this stuff. Like, they were pretty fucking clear about what they wanted. It's our job not just to interpret it with judges, Supreme Court justices, but to actually change the Constitution to conform to our lives. I swear to God, if Thomas Jefferson was alive today, he'd be like, how have you guys not actually had a constitutional convention to bring it up to date? You've done all this gerrymandering and jerry-rigging with your justices, and that's not what we meant. We gave you a great foundation. It's super strong, but we encourage you to build on top of it and change the structure as needed. We haven't done it. Trump broke through in a certain radical, empowering way, which Mandami is doing the same thing. These are two streams in the same river. Do I like that Trump is calling the Kennedy Center the Donald J. Trump, John F. Kennedy Center? No. He's an egomaniac. He's an absolute egomaniac. As Susie Wiles said, he has an alcoholic personality. And as he said, like her dad, Pat Summerall, he thinks he can do anything. And he said, well, yeah, I don't drink, but yes, I have that personality. I don't like that he's done that. I don't like that he's got the Trump class. He puts his name on everything. It's so cheesy. It's like annoying. But that said, don't let that shiny object take you away from the real force of what he did, which is blast into a tired system of, this is my side, my right side for the haves, the have-nots, the power class and the non-power class. It's not about Republicans, Democrats, left, right. Trump blasted into that like a nuclear missile, a ship busting the ice to shreds. I don't know, a rocket, whatever you want, whatever analogy makes sense. He blasted it apart. Mandami in New York is doing something similar. Younger, a little quieter right now. You will see Mandami run for president, but first you will see him become the most interesting mayor New York City's ever seen. He is not the haves and the have-nots. He is busting down the system. I reframe that. He is not just trying to give to the have-nots. He is busting a system of those in power, the haves and the have-nots. He is on a similar mold as Donald Trump, and he will have impact. It's not about him being a socialist or Trump being a right-wing nationalist. That's not the point. And if that's what you think the point is, you miss the bigger point, which is what this all was built on and why we have a chance as we move forward with all this disruption to actually re-envision and create the America we want right now, built on the beautiful foundations of a constitution that our founding fathers intended us to build on and modify and grow. I would say Merry Christmas, but I'm going to see you guys again on Christmas Eve. So Merry pre-Christmas Eve. Thanks for watching. It's Rob Nelson Live.
Meet Rob Nelson, talk show host.
Because you got the 70s thing going there. I got someone's underwear.
Robert Kennedy, thanks for taking a minute. Simple question.
Tucker, it's good to see you. Listen,
If you're a Bitcoin maximalist, you're Bitcoin forever.
I hate this central bank digital currency.